What is up, everybody? Hello and welcome back to WMMA Mania, WMMA Mania, as we can call it internally, because that is a much more fun name. I am your host, Drake Riggs, here Monday, March 7th, 2022. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you had a great weekend. Plenty of fights, plenty of fun stuff that went down. We'll get all into it and look forward to the week ahead. So exciting as always. On today's lineup, we will be talking about the PFL Challenger Series 3, which did go down lightweight division this past Friday. The day after, UFC 272, two fights of big importance, one in the grander scheme and one in the division, of course. As for the news, plenty of exciting things to talk about there. And it's the return of Invicta this week, so we'll talk about that card. Bellator 276, which has one fight. And then UFC Vegas 50 will close it on out. Good stuff, as always. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys are here, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, wherever, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, share button, whatever buttons you have on whichever platform really helps us a whole lot. Just a simple click. You can hit that notification bell as well. If you are on YouTube, then you'll never miss a thing. And also, if you are on Twitter, then you might want to hop on over to one of the other platforms if you want to interact in the comments, because for some reason the Twitter Live does not like to integrate, so cannot see those. I cannot see those, and no one else on the other platforms can either. So there you have it. So what is up, everybody? James is here. Jimmy is here. Rain. Rue predicting Phantom Punch names. Phantom Punch guess game. You missed the last two episodes, Rue. Unfortunately, no Phantom Punch going down at the moment, but I guess we'll have a little bit of a surprise for you today. Jin. Hey, Drake, the man with the big rig is back, yo. Yes, I am. Alvin says, hello, what a fantastic weekend of fights. Looking forward to a great discussion. As am I, Alvin. So why don't we get into it? And we'll start off with, admittedly, probably the event that I'm sure a lot of people missed because it is a new thing, the PFL Challenger Series. And admittedly, I have not got around to watching this yet myself, but it is worth at least talking about or looking at what went down, because it is a little bit interesting. So, and I will explain why as we pull up the recap tab and the screen here. Apologies for the slowness. It is definitely a Monday. So the lightweight division, of course, an anomaly, as the PFL likes to do their things, went down on Friday. As I said, just 4 fights, so a nice little card. I'm still curious to see how exactly the speed of this went, because as we know, PFL is just great at dragging out their cards, no matter how long they are. So with 4 fights, I hope it did not last very long, but I'll have to go and catch up myself anyway. But let's look at the results, as Martina Jindrova got the split decision win over Jackie Cavalcante in the main event. Or Jacqueline Cavalcante. Yes, okay, the name's, I was like, wait a minute, are my eyes playing tricks on me? Jackie Cataline right here submits Cami Adams first round, so that's fun. And I think they were all, everything leading up to the main event was a first round finish. Jessalyn Michelle knocking out Julia Dorney. I saw the highlights for these finishes. I just didn't get to see the whole fights yet, so we'll have to go back and do that. Apologies, everybody. Michelle Montague submits Olivia Parker, rear naked choke. So just been rough for Olivia Parker since joining the bigger leagues. I mean, she came to Invicta, what was that, 2 years ago? Got completely starched by Chelsea Chandler. And then Kat Zingano fight, which, yes, we know that one definitely should not have happened. And then loses to a debutante. So that's big time bummer for Olivia Parker. 40 years old, still fairly new to the game, obviously, but yeah, don't know where she goes from here. And the most experienced person in the tournament, or not the tournament, but at least in terms of MMA fights in this whole Challenger Series lineup, and she got taken out rather easily, it looked like. Um, and as for this co-main event fight, though, with Jackie Cataline and Cammy Adams, this was supposed to be Evelyn Martin's in for Cammy Adams. So unfortunately, don't know what happened to Evelyn. She said that I think some personal issues kept her out. So no need to speculate on what that means. Regardless, she did not make it to the fight, which sucks because I think that was one we were most looking forward to seeing in terms of a singular fighter. And, just 19 years old, she'll be back. I mean, Evelyn was a replacement for this fight in the first place. So went replacement, yada, yada. Sucks for her, but hey, still incredibly young. And then as for the Jindrova fight, this is the kind of funniest thing to me, which I don't know if PFL is just playing games with this or anything, but if you guys were following along, and I'm sure on the old show we might have talked about it, but Martina Jindrova was actually signed to the PFL last season alongside Marina Makhmatkina. Like they were signed at the same exact time. And Marina obviously has gone on to fight and debut in the PFL already. She is 100% most likely going to be in this coming season. Don't know why she wouldn't be. But I mean, they were both signed to be in the season, right? That's what I'm getting at. They were both signed to be in this upcoming season. Yet Jindrova fights here on this card and gets a split decision. So that means at least one judge thought she lost, which doesn't really say a whole lot knowing how judges work in the sport. So I'll have to go back and definitely watch that one. But they gave her the contract out of everybody when she's the one fighter, went to a split and didn't finish when she was already signed. And I don't know how often it happens where you go back on something like promotion wise and change the contract to, oh, actually, you know what? You're going to have to work your way into it. So presumably she was going to be in no matter what. So I don't understand what was happening there, but either way, that was the PFL Challenger Series, and I think probably spent a little bit too much time on that. But it was I thought that was very interesting to see how that happened, and unfortunate that we lost the Evelyn fight as well. So thank you, Makoto, by the way, says hi, Drake. Love your show, my friend. Oh, I love you, Makoto. Thank you. Jimmy says, oh no, I wanted to watch the PFL, but completely forgot. Okay, so he was interested, but missed out. Jin says he really wanted to see it as well because the card was short, but also forgot. Yeah, I know. They haven't done a very good job of promoting it. As Drew asked, where can we watch it? It is on Fubo TV. So I think that needs a subscription. I'm not totally sure. I still need to look into that. Obviously, I've been a little too lazy with it myself, but yes, Fubo TV. That is what it is on. And Rain, as I mentioned, Evelyn, unfortunately, missed the fight for whatever reason, and her replacement, Cammy Adams, lost. Mary, good to see you. She says, hello, Drake. I got to speak with Whaley in a live chat on Sunday, and I asked if she remembered you. She said she is forever grateful for the story you wrote and was excited to see you at 268. Wow. Wow. Okay. Mary, you're making my day right there. I did not expect that at all. Wow. That is great news. That's very flattering to know. I did not know that that's where that comment was going. That means a lot because, yeah, obviously saw Whaley at 268, but I didn't get to, have like a one-on-one or, run into her aside from the things we were doing, fight week activities. But yeah, it seemed like, she might have remembered me just from the brief interactions we had, but I had no way of knowing. So that was a really cool thing. I'm glad that you mentioned that. Thank you so much. And that's just really great to know that something I did could leave an impact like that, especially on someone like Whaley who lives across the planet. And we did that 3 years ago. So made my day, Mary. Thank you so much. It's been a little bit tough week of a weekend for me too. So that really makes me happy. Thank you. As Mary says, she spoke quite fondly of you. She said she was really grateful since you were one of the few people that gave her time to interview her. I try. Trying to get the tears out of me here early, Mary, but that really means a lot. So that's awesome. That is really cool that she said that. So thank you. And thank you, Whaley. I'm glad that I can be remembered too. So Alvin says, my apologies, Mr. Riggs. I miss PFL. Don't be sorry to me, man. Be sorry to the PFL. The event's not going anywhere though. As Rue asks, how can PFL be better or get better at promoting things? Oh, that is a good question, Rue. I don't know. I don't know. It's such a tricky thing, when you're on, because they're still with ESPN, I believe, at least for the upcoming regular season, right? But as for the Challenger Series, that's clearly not on ESPN. And just being on ESPN in general is fairly good promotion. Obviously, PFL has gotten incredibly hyperbolic with their selling. So saying a lot of nonsense this past year, as we will remember. Things like, Kayla being the best in the world, all that kind of stuff. They got to do it, but it's a little bit annoying, you know. Um, I don't know. It's really tough. I think the best thing they can do is probably just keep selling their things that are different from other promotions, which, as we've talked about, can be a little bit complicated and hard to grasp for a casual mind, but just keep selling yourself as something different, an alternative, I suppose. I think probably what they should really just hammer on home, which they do a pretty good job of, but just hone in on how you're handing out $1 million. Publicly say like that you are giving out more money, not on average, I guess, but the highest reward. It's like, how cell phone commercials, they'll be like, Verizon is better than the other guys, and they'll like list off T-Mobile and yada yada, which I don't know how. I've always been curious how that works, how they're allowed to publicly not slander, but put themselves over, the other companies. If PFL could do that and like straight up show that, hey, check this out. The winners of our tournaments are making more than John Jones per fight, like that kind of thing. Francis Ngannou, the UFC champions, you don't even have to say UFC. Just say a big name champ. That's a pretty good hook, especially for a casual, right? So, I mean, you could say either of those guys, but I think that'd be genius. Why the hell not? They can't get in trouble for that, right? If they don't say the UFC name, I think that'd be a great idea. Why not play that game? Why not? And James asks, when will you be covering live events? Good question, James. I'm working on getting to some events soon. One this month, hopefully, and then next month right now. That is what we're looking at as for the upcoming schedule. But as of right now, definitely not going to be as busy of a year on the scene as busy of a year on the scene, yeah, as it was last year. Because a little secret for you guys, media wise, is uh, going to live events is kind of not kind of, it's quite a big investment and can help you lead to maybe what you're trying to get to, which is now what we've done here as I'm at MMA Mania and, doing the morning reports for MMA Fighting. Very cool. But at the moment, it's not as worth it or needed from me yet. We'll see if that changes, but that's kind of the thing is, and I noticed this as we see these press conferences and some of these questions and newer people coming in and asking maybe not the best things. They're investing, trying to get to a spot where they don't need to go to events anymore, at least in theory. It's kind of not what I was trying to do, but that's how it worked out. And it can work that way. So live events now, not as much of a priority for me. Not to say I've like made it or anything like that, but that's just kind of how that cookie can crumble, if that makes sense. So, Una Lee Park, good to see you. New face is always great. She says, hi, Drake. I saw you. Great analysis on the scrap. You have an amazing attention to detail. Loved your Whaley Kazushi breakdown. Love Whaley in general. Saw her fight against Andrade. I've had this happen a couple times, Una. Appreciate that, but I cannot take the credit. That was a Ghost Phantom. he is a former mod at the Scrap, and he is here in the chat. I'm sure he does the breakdowns, and I was just the narrator. So give him the credit. I'm sure he will enjoy that. But I appreciate the kind words nonetheless. And as she says, while studying for a midterm at UCLA and was inspired to learn Muay Thai. Awesome. That is great to hear. Very cool. As Jimmy says, that's a great point, Drake. Thank you. And James says, that is genius. I mean, why not? Why not? You know, if you're going to promote yourself. As Yuna says, how come no one really talks about Kazushi and other analysis? Great work and looking forward to more breakdowns, Drake. You are a genius. Thank you, Yuna. But again, I cannot take the credit. Yes, yeah. No, it's okay. I've had a couple people do that, but yes, we work together. We're a team. So yeah. I mean, as for that question though, how come no one really talks about Kazushi and other analysis? Because it's a very specific type of, I don't know if you want to call it a technique or area of fighting, right? Like I remember speaking to Kayla Harrison about it, and you know, the art of off balancing a little bit, right? It's and the intricacies of that, you know, coming from judo, and not everyone trains judo. It's still a rarer art that I think people work on specifically. You know, we've seen plenty of judokas in MMA now, high level and all that, but that's where that comes from. So for everyone to talk about it, I think they just don't know because they're not high level judokas. That'd be kind of why, I would assume. But Centro asks, what do you think of Kevin Iole getting shut down by Colby and denying that Kevin wrote an inflammatory article? And Kevin denying that he wrote an inflammatory article. I thought it was funny. I think it's hilarious when Colby does that too. Kevin, oh, does it to John, which I love John Morgan. Shout out to him. He's fantastic. I've hung out with him several times. Got to know him pretty well last year, but I think it's hilarious. And John handles it very well. I kind of wish that he would I don't know, it'd be funny to see him snap back more intensely, but that wouldn't be the smartest idea, right? But I don't know. I don't know which article Colby was talking about with Kevin specifically, so I don't really have a comment on that. But I find it funny when Colby does that. A little bit shitty for the people asking, that's for sure. But hey, it is what it is, I guess. As Go says, Unit's pretty hard to find in general, and only certain people know how to use it. Talking about Kazushi, of course. Yes, and thank you so much, Una. Great to have you here, and I hope that the midterms and all that, the Muay Thai, going well so far. So, all right, with that in mind, we'll move on. Wow, taking some time there at the beginning. Appreciate it, though, guys. Can always remember it's pretty much open forum Q&A, even though we do have a lineup here. Feel free to ask questions whenever. But we will get to UFC 272 now, which was something, especially when it comes to our two female fights, which were some good ones. And we'll start off with the big one, the big kibosh. My goodness, the strawweight bout. Marina Rodriguez defeats Yan Xiaonan via split decision, 29-28 twice, and then 29-28 for Xiaonan. Oh, man, this fight, I tell you, it was bittersweet for me going in, as I adore both of them greatly, and it is a very bittersweet outcome as well. Marina Rodriguez pulls it off, which that shouldn't be how that is worded, but personally, I thought that Yan Xiaonan won this fight 29-28, first two rounds in her favor. Seems that in everyone's opinions, this definitely came down to the second round, which I believe is fair, but I felt watching it live, and the only time I've watched it now, I need to rewatch. I felt that it seemed pretty clearly edged for Xiaonan. Third round and first round, as you can see, they're very clear. Just looking at the stats. I mean, the stats kind of tell the story here, but I feel like maybe they don't when it comes to that second round. But Yan Xiaonan throughout this fight, mostly in those first two rounds, was working quite a nice inside low kick, which I know our guy Ghost, I'm sure, was loving. She was very quick. Her movement was very nice in this fight. the speed advantage was pretty clear in that first round, and ended up, what do you know, as I predicted, catching a kick there at the end of that first round and dumping Marina down just for, a little 4 seconds or so, as it shows right there. And then I don't recall this, maybe a similar sequence there at the end, but it says takedown in the second round. I don't quite remember that for Xiaonan, but either way, real bummer for her, because she was crying as the decision was being read out. Very emotional for her to try and rebound. And I think that she should have. And, I have no issues with Marina winning. Think she's great as well. Came on strong late, but struggled a bit early on there. And this is the first time that she's really been beaten at all in any sense in terms of the striking. She's had just a big advantage over everybody. And we knew that this would be the fight that someone would be able to maybe get the better of Marina. And we saw that at least in one round officially. The first round, Yan Xiaonan getting the better of Marina there. So that was something. And man, I wish that this fight had 5 rounds though, because it was a good one. It was very fun to watch. Practically no grappling as expected, as advertised. 2 of the best strikers in the division. Yeah, it's a bittersweet one, the result. But Marina Rodriguez, title shot coming her way. Has to. Even if you don't agree, super close enough, I guess. Again, I'll need a rewatch, but I did think that Xiaonan should have got the win there. Still love Marina, but I mean that's title shot worthy. Presumably after Carla, as that one should have happened already, but she has the argument there now with what is this, 4 or 5 wins in a row? And I mean, I think I don't know. She arguably didn't even lose to Carla, right? Like, I think there's that argument to be made, but crazy stuff there. So Jimmy asks, do you think this was a robbery? And he's also asking Ghost. No. When it comes to robberies, I think it's got to be like pretty bad. And like, even though I didn't agree with this, robbery, I think it was close enough to not be a robbery. So I disagree there. As James says, he had Marina, but it's arguable. Jin says he had Yan. Rue with Yan 1 and 2, Marina 3. Yeah, it comes down to that second round, it seems. Centro says gave Yan 1 and 2 because of the takedown and elbow at the end of the round. Okay, there you go. Yeah, good elbow work. Cut Marina a little bit. Go says 1-2s with lateral movement, add the inside low kick. Actually took Marina's oblique kick and outside low kick away with the movement. Indeed. Go says close decision, not a robbery, and nothing to complain about. Yeah, it was a great one. Great one indeed. As expected. Kimball Mercer, good to see you. Good afternoon, Drake. Big fan of Whaley after 248 and the Love Ghosts and yours breakdown of on WMA today. How would Xiaonan do against Whaley? Well, thank you so much for tuning in. First of all, Kimball, great to see you. New faces. I like this. Always happy to see new people chiming in. How would Xiaonan do against Whaley? Man, I'd love to find out. We've talked about that potential fight so much over the course of the show's history and things alike, but would love for it to be with a title on the line in China, like the ideal dream situation. But now they've both lost 2 in a row, which is very sad. But I think that I've always thought that Xiaonan would do well against Whaley, be very competitive and a fun fight to watch. But in terms of aggression and power, I mean, I think Xiaonan, when she really turns it on, as we saw in some cases in this fight, landed those side kicks and whatnot. Not that that's an aggressive technique, but I just like when she does that. Can be pretty aggressive, but when Whaley is more controlled with her aggression, I think, and obviously packs some more power to all of her shots, hits very hard with everything, and then can grapple a bit better than Xiaonan. At least from, if we're going to go off what we've seen recently, which wasn't very, we didn't really see any improvements from Xiaonan in this fight, which we should not have expected against a striker like Marina. But if we're going to go off of what from the Carla fight happened, I think Whaley could still take her down. just to assume from what we've seen. So I think Weili would probably mix it up eventually at some point in a fight with Zhao Nan, like as it went on, maybe not right away, but who knows? Maybe it would end up looking crazy like the Joanna fight. Either way, I think Zhao Nan, with this fight, Zhao Nan reminded people that she is still pretty damn good despite getting, outclassed in the wrestling department, which is stupid that she was such a big underdog in this fight because styles make fights. And for her to be a 3-1 underdog in a striking matchup was silly, as good as Marina is, but goldfish brains going off her last fight, it just didn't make sense. Just did not make sense. So yeah, would love to see that one. That'd be another bittersweet fight, Kimball. I don't want to see either of those ladies losing to one another. That would be a bummer, but it's just the world we're working in. So, and Ghost says Jan's lack of offensive clinch hurt her in this one, specifically against Marina. I'm assuming is what you're mentioning there, Ghost. Which, yeah, that would have helped, but that's a good point. I wish that we kind of would have got to see the fight play out in the clinch a little bit more, just because Marina is fantastic in the clinch as well. So maybe another time, rematch down the line. Who knows? But thank you, Kimball, by the way. Great to have you. Yeah, that's a good point, Ghost. It's like when Colby and Kamaru didn't go to the ground in the first fight, and Steve hated that. So I don't feel the same way necessarily about them clinching, but that would have been a great mini battle to see within the overall battle. So Marina Rodriguez keeps on keeping on. Can't help but feel happy for her. But man, I am heartbroken for Yan Jianan, one of my favorite fighters. You guys know that. Her and Kanako, those are my gals. I can't help it. Need more Kanako in my life as well. So let's move on to actually, here, let me pull it up real quick. Because I forgot that Ghost did give us a little bit of a mini breakdown, kind of classic to our early ones. So, and it is of the slideshow variation just to make sure that we don't get in trouble. So we're going to gamble with it here. I think it should be okay. It's only a minute, so perfect test, but we'll pull it up here. Let's go theater mode, as it is tied in with a question as always. As Ghost prepares some proper ring cutting against an elite ring general. He says, as Joanna is circling out on the edge of the cage with Weili pressuring, take note that Weili does not follow while Joanna sidesteps. Instead, Weili cuts the path. Joanna is going to mirrored lateral steps while both fighters are in a squared stance. Weili fires her sidekick when Joanna staggers her stance, knowing that Joanna will have a hard time moving laterally. What was happening in Rodriguez versus Zhao Nan? Zhao Nan looking to circle out with Marina looking to follow. Marina attacks where Zhao Nan was. And Marina now has to turn to face Zhao Nan, while Zhao Nan has taken the center of the cage. Zhao Nan has center and can move freely in any direction. Where was Marina's ring cutting? So there we go. A quick little ultra mini breakdown. Slideshow variation. Kind of fun. I mean, right, you guys? It's a callback there. So where was Marina's ring cutting, he asks. And I think, honestly, that just came down, her lack of ability to cut off Zhao Nan was just a credit to Zhao Nan's movement in this fight. She was moving very well throughout. I don't know which round specifically that was. Not that matters that he was highlighting, but Zhao Nan was just very fluid in this fight, I thought. So, and again, coming down to the speed was maybe just too much for Marina to really understand which way she was going to try and go. And she decided to not bother with gambling on either side maybe risking a head kick. Who knows? Because, man, early on, Xiaonan was really snapping him up there. So that could have caused some fear in her mind. I don't know. Maybe I can ask Marina next time I talk to her, because that is definitely always good fun to have technique talk there. So, yeah. As Jimmy says, was it me, or did it feel like Marina was just following Xiaonan around the cage? Pretty hilarious that you said that right before what we just talked about, as everyone got very excited uh, about it. So, Jimmy says, hey, ring cutting. I asked a question about this earlier. Yes, exactly. And yes, Kimball, you came literally right in the perfect time for that. As Rue says, I saw this too. Marina didn't cut the cage well. Sintra says, that's sidekick. Jin says, yeah, that sidekick from Whaley. Jimmy says, but Joanna has great movement and Whaley cut her off. That is true. As Ghost says, Marina did catch her along the fence when Xiaonan backed herself up. Right. I mean, it's all a mental game, and just making those reads. So and Marina, with her length, definitely, I think, could have done that. But again, it's just kind of, I don't know. She seemed off in that first round particular, which, again, don't know if that's when that was. Want to go back and rewatch the fight. But yeah, it was definitely something she struggled with in that fight. That's for sure. So anyway, so I had to get that out of there as we move on to the feel-good moment of the event. I think safe to say, as Marina Moroz defeats Maria Agapova via second round submission, arm triangle at, 327. Puts the feud, the bad blood, to bed, even though they really weren't too upset with each other during fight week. But Marina Moroz, my goodness, comes back after, a 2-year layoff. You wouldn't really know it. Not very rusty whatsoever. Shows some new wrinkles to her game. Marina Moroz primarily been a striker in her last so many fights. Looking phenomenal at flyweight since going up from strawweight. Has a ton of arm bars and submissions on her record, so she can grapple. But we've never seen her just wrestle the shit out of somebody before, and she did that to Maria Agapova, and I loved about one of the little things I loved about this fight as it was unfolding was Dean Thomas on the commentary, who works with ATT, and both of these ladies being former teammates at ATT, letting us know that this happened in the gym often. And, he said that on the broadcast, oh, wow, that's just one of those little insight nuggets that you're like, oh my, I guess this makes sense then. This happened all the time, apparently. But so that's incredibly smart of Marina to then overcome those emotions, not just with this bad blood matchup, but with obviously everything that's going on with her family and her country. And I'm never one who wants to get political whatsoever, so I'm not going to. But if you aren't living under a rock, you know that people are not happy with each other. We'll leave it at that. And all about positivity here and people getting along. So it is an unfortunate time for, the Ukrainian people and all that's going on. So great moment for her. And, you get a little bit teary-eyed watching that post-fight. But this was a practically flawless performance from Marina Moroz. Almost got her out of there in the first round with a rear naked choke. Just continually worked. Props to Agapova for surviving some of those early scares, but ultimately just could not overcome that tenacity from Marina Moroz, who typically does not show that. She is becoming an overall force at flyweight, and somebody might have to be talking about in the among the contenders soon. She should definitely get a top 15 opponent next, and hopefully can be more active going forward. Maria Agapova, I've seen people say, what has she done now? Was she a bust? No, she's still just 24. And if this was a fight where this was they had familiarity, I don't think you can put too much into that. She still looked great against Sabina Mazo. Didn't really get to show these, they're very different fights that played out. Let's put it that way. So Agapova's not done. I think it just Moroz is really hitting her stride now at flyweight. And experience is a big factor for that, obviously, not just in their own careers, but against one another. So, yeah, what more can you say? This was a great feel good moment and showing for Marina Moroz, I think. And Go says that clip from the little highlight of the Marina fight was from the last round. Okay, so all right, there you go. As James says, what did you think of the commentary for this fight from Dean? I touched on that already. Reading my mind, you guys. I thought that was great. I love that kind of insight. As Jin says, do you think her opponent gassed? So she definitely seemed tired after that first round. I don't know if I want to say gassed, but we obviously have seen Maria gas before in that Shannon Dobson fight, particularly where she was unloading her onslaught of attacks onto Dobson and couldn't put her away. Then she gassed out. And in this case, very different what happened to her, where she was getting grinded on for the entire first round. So I don't know if I want to say that necessarily, Jin, but it kind of looked like it. I don't know. I don't have a specific answer for that, though. As Alvin says, love submissions. Neither got seriously hurt, so both can get better. I love it. I love you, Alvin. And Zhao Shu, good to see you. He says, hi, Drake. Actually found the WMA Today podcast and loved the Phantom Punch breakdowns. You know the identity of Ghost Phantom. Loved all the Whaley ones. She is such an inspiration. Well, I'm not going to answer that. You can ask him yourself. I'm not going out here doxing people, Zhao, but thank you so much for tuning in and glad you enjoyed everything that we've been doing. So and these guys have asked many a time, but I do or do not know, and we'll leave it at that. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. As James says, hey, Drake, where's Alan's Phantom Punch breakdown? Well, it would be called the something breakdown. It wouldn't be called the Phantom Punch. Rain asked, did you see Will Brooks loving Ghost's attention to detail? Yes, I did see that. Very cool for him to get a shout out from Will Brooks, former Bellator champ, the only man to defeat Michael Chandler multiple times. That was very cool indeed. So some little details there from old Willie. So that was UFC 272, though, you guys. My goodness, we might go a little overtime on this episode, which I guess is all right. But I do have to do some more work later in the day, but we'll see how this goes. We'll run through the news. UFC 272, good stuff there. Good stuff there. Enjoyed the card, at least the prelims for the most part. And the main card was all right. But as for the news, let's get the bombers out of the way. As at strawweight, Amanda Ribas versus Michelle Waterson is canceled after originally being pushed back to UFC 274, I believe from 273, as Waterson is dealing with a serious injury. As you can see here on MMAmania.com, go check us out if you have not yet. Michelle Waterson posted on her Instagram last week sometime where she said, I'm hoping, keeping my fingers crossed, that this is a short break. It's an injury that stopped me from training, and it's heartbreaking. I was really excited to fight Amanda. I know she was very excited to fight as well, so hopefully it's a fight that we could still have. But if I don't take care of this injury, it will turn into something that can be worse and career-ending. So that's scary, and that's a bummer, for Michelle Waterson. Missing out on this fight once again, and for who knows what, but wishing her all the best. Karate Hottie, been in some of the best fights of all time, specifically that Jessica Penne fight. If you have not seen that one, turn this off and go watch it. That's how good it is. I don't even care that you would be stopping to watch the show. You have to see Jessica Penne versus Michelle Waterson if you have not. But yeah, wishing her all the best. Hopefully can get better soon and get back in there and do what she loves. So you never like to hear that when somebody wants to keep fighting, but just simply might not be able to. So wishing Waterson all the best. And we have yet to hear about a potential fill-in against Ribas. So we'll see and keep you updated on that one in the coming weeks, of course, as we do. But what we do have an update on is who is filling in for Jessica I, as at flyweight, it's Jennifer Maia versus Manon Fiorot at UFC Columbus on March 26th. Big step up. Big step up for Manon. Obviously, the biggest test of her career so far. Goes from Jessica I to Jennifer Maia. A little bit different. Yeah, this will tell us a whole lot about Manon Fiorot and if she is ready to take that next step. If she wins, I mean, she's right there. You could be looking at the title fight. Could be too soon, but really this fight will tell us a whole lot. Jennifer Maia obviously needs to get back in the win column as well. She's been going back and forth in her last so many fights. Just lost that Caitlin Chukagian rematch. Love this one, though. A little bit bittersweet because I do like both of them as well, but should be fun. And it's very intriguing to see, will be very intriguing to see how exactly this goes down. And yeah, didn't see that coming. I mean, you take a bad thing and turn it into a much better thing in terms of the reward for Manon Fiorot. So at least we don't have to wait too long until she fights again. So that's exciting. As we move along, 1X, which is coming up March 26th, that same day, continually adding fights, specifically at atom weight, 115 pounds. Itsuki Hirata taking on Jihan Radzuan, and in a grappling match, Mei Yamaguchi versus Danielle Kelly. And so when I first saw this, I did not see the grappling part, and I was like, are you out of your mind? You're putting a debutant against Vivi Mei, one of the most experienced women on the planet. You are insane, but it's grappling, so okay, that's much better. Danielle Kelly, obviously a prodigy in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and just 20 something years old, very young. I think 23, 24, will be in MMA eventually, but they want her on this card because why not stack it up big? And I think there was another one that was added, Asha Roka versus Elise Anderson, I think. So 3 fights in total, really stacking the deck here. And it'll be good to see Itsuki and against Jihin, who just came back recently. And so good for her to be active, and a big opportunity here. She was out for like 2 years or so, but great opportunity again. Like I said, should be a good one. And that Danielle Kelly versus Yamaguchi is pretty interesting. If it was MMA, then I would be scolding one championship right now, because that's a little bit crazy if you were to do it that way. So also at flyweight, we do have the next title fight lined up. Valentina Shevchenko is defending against Taila Santos, UFC 275, June 11th. Location is to be determined, but it is expected to be Singapore, that is something. Yuri Prohaska and Glover Teixeira also expected to be on this card. This was the fight to make, though. Taila Santos absolutely has earned her flyweight title shot. Happy to see that she's getting it. And perhaps the winner would be awaiting potentially Manon Fiorot if she beats Jennifer Maia. Don't think it would be the other way around. But again, we know that if Taila Santos beats Valentina Shevchenko, she is going to have to beat her again, because they will do an instant rematch. And I really like this matchup. I think I've been saying it on this run that Taila's been on, that she has the potential, her skill set, to give Valentina some problems. That's always so hard to say because Valentina is so flawless, and it'll probably look how they all do. But I like what Taila has shown us in her versatility, from her grappling to her Muay Thai, which she hasn't even really leaned on in this run that she's been on. I mean, a little bit in that last fight, knocked down JoJo and then submitted her. But Taila Santos has just been well-rounded brilliance on this run. And yes, you can knock competition, yada, yada. But hey, she's done everything that she's supposed to do, and beating people at their own games, which is always very impressive. So a well-earned shot. I'm glad that they went with this and not something silly, which I don't know what that would have been, but I'm here for it. So that's exciting. And the last bit of news, you guys, I will get to the comments momentarily, just running through it. If you could not tell, BVB is back, but now she is Brianna Fortino as she takes on a returning strawweight Cynthia Calvillo on June 4th at a UFC maybe fight night, a UFC event. Location to be determined. I love this matchup stylistically, and it has a whole lot of intrigue to it in terms of BVB coming back after 2 years, becoming a mother, showed some serious potential becoming the Invicta champ, and then, uh, you know, not she ran into a very tough roadblock that was Tisha Torres, got set back there and then went away. And then Cynthia Calvillo is obviously just really faltered at flyweight, but now going to give strawweight another chance and plenty of time, as we were kind of hoping she would take after the last fight. So we'll see if it ends up being enough and how BVB comes back after motherhood and a layoff. So a lot of intrigue in that one. Don't hate this matchup at all. I think it's fairly perfect, actually, especially if you look at the name value and kind of standings of both of them and where they will likely be with a win or whatever it is. I'm fine with it. I think this should be a very fun fight. At least it has the potential to be. So that, looking forward to that one. Heard that it was in the works a week or so ago. So should be good. Should be good. But as for, before we get to the previews, which I think made a pretty good time right there, let's see what everybody is saying. As Go says, I love Will Brooks. He's got creative striking. Yeah, Will Brooks was definitely fun in his prime. As Alvin says, oh no, wishing Mrs. Watterson well. It's always good to look out for your health. Indeed. Hope for the best with her. Jimmy says, would Whaley versus Hebos be good? I mean, they could do that. They 100% will not do it, Jimmy. It's not going to happen. But I'd be fine with it. You know, Hebos back in the winning column. Whaley dropped 2, yes, to Rose, but they're not going to do that. I'd be fine with it. And short notice, not a chance. I mean, they'd have to book it further in advance, but nah, I'd be fine with that again, but it's not going to happen. As Rain says, the fight we didn't know we wanted. Not sure which one you're referring to. I probably should have taken my time there, but I had to get through it. But the fight we needed, he says. Not sure which one. As Zhao says, I'm new to MMA, but is Whaley versus Whaley versus Zhao Nan or Whaley versus Hebos a good fight for Whaley? Is Hebos ranked too low? So which one would be I mean, they'd both be good fights, Zhao. I think that she'd be favored in both and they'd both be fun. But which one is the better fight? Stylistically, I'd probably... I don't know. They both present very different challenges. I might say Zhao Nan slightly just because of the grappling difference. Like, I don't think we'd see Zhao Nan threatening with too many submissions from anywhere, to be quite honest, as much as that pains me to say. But we forget how freaking dominant that Amanda Hebos has been when she gets on top of people. And I'd say she would get on top of Whaley, but if she did, could present some problems. So I don't know. But so that might make me lean towards Zhao Nan being a slightly better one. And Hebos being ranked too low, probably for the UFC to make it, kind of like what I was saying to Jimmy there. As Rain says, May Yamaguchi, just love saying that name. Try it, Drake. It makes you smile. It just rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? As Jen says, why did they put Dern versus Torres in the main card for 273, but keep Greg Hardy on the main card against a boring fighter? I wish I had the answers for you, my man. But that drove me crazy this past weekend with Marina and Zhao Nan. Absolute disgrace. Absolutely disgraceful. As Go says, Santos needs to use the fence in this. Valentina cannot create the false distance when she is near the fence. Agreed. That is always a big thing. James says, can Cynthia even make weight for this? So that's a bit of the worry, right? I think there's been plenty of time, hopefully, that she's been working on this. And I'm sure we'll hear about it as it gets closer. But if she's taking the amount of time necessary, then she should hopefully be fine. But yeah, that's the question. Kimball says, could Weili headline in Singapore in the future? I'm sure in the future. Yeah. I mean, that's a very big window. So could happen. It's not going to happen at this next event because they already got the 2 fights lined up, presumably for Singapore. But yeah, that could, of course, happen. I mean, they were talking about it a little bit in the past. As Chuck is here and he says Calvillo fighting BBB finally explains Fortino's ridiculous ranking. Suppose so. And good afternoon, sir. Yeah. It would. Let's not talk about rankings. Obviously, some people should and should not be in there. Jen says, who is the A side between Weili and Joanna? I've seen people from the media that Weili is irrelevant. Well, she's been a whole lot more relevant and active than Joanna has recently. So I think that's all that needs to be said about that, really. Who's fighting and who isn't? All right. So what have you done for me lately, sport? Unfortunately. In some ways, unfortunately. But yeah, I think that's the best way to look at that. So, all right. We will get to the previews then. Wrap up the show afterwards, of course. Because it is Invicta FC 46 week. My, oh my. Invicta back in our lives once again. And a late changeup. So quite a bummer there to see Karina Rodriguez will not be fighting Ketlin Souza. I think travel issues, maybe. But instead, Diana Torquato gets the instant rematch, which definitely doesn't make any sense. She got beat pretty thoroughly in that first fight, or last time out. But this is the emergency button here. So that's why this is happening. Don't expect it to look any different. Maybe Karina goes out and finishes her this time. But that's the quick assessment of, the main event, because Karina Rodriguez pretty much boxed her face off in that first fight for 5 rounds, looked great in it. And I see no reason that should be too different, even though she was training for somebody else. So always like to watch Karina, though. Lobo Gym, it's always a good time. Co-main event, Milana Dudaeva, Denise Gomez. Danielle Taylor is back. Everyone's favorite Danielle Taylor against Liz Tracy, my hometown Portland girl. Liz Tracy fights are always very exciting. So we'll see if she can bring it out of Danielle Taylor. Unfortunately, I think that her style kind of will lead right into Danielle's game. And she's going to have to get her down, because otherwise she'll be chasing her around and eating minimal big shots potentially. But if Liz gets it to the ground, then she can win, because she's pretty good on the ground. But unfortunately, I'm not so sure how likely that is. As Christina Williams is also on the card. I believe her Invicta debut. Very exciting to see, as she has fought in Bellator before, has the win over Heather Hardy, and I think some others, taking on Florihani, which sounds like one name when you say it all together. Paulina Granados, Monique Adriani, however, Fatima Klein, Nadia Vera. So a couple of newcomers here, as always, but a relatively fun top to bottom card from Invicta. Your 6 fight usual will be on YouTube, so no reason to miss it, as well as MMAJunkie.com, because now they have a partnership, and don't know whatever happened to the access stuff. But yeah, can't go wrong with some Invicta, as you see here, the change ups. So Dudaeva was not supposed to take on Denise Gomez originally, and I'm pretty sure Denise Gomez was not on this card already. But yeah, so the ones to look out for, obviously the main event, Christina Williams, always a pretty fun kickboxer to watch. Great kicks, pretty good combinations. Struggles a bit on the ground, but that makes sense if you're a talented kickboxer. And then that Liz Tracy, Danielle Taylor one, again, should be interesting for how it can and maybe should go. But Liz Tracy fights are always must see, in my opinion. I think she's always fun to watch. Paulina Granados. It's just a bummer. I really wish that we had a fresh matchup for Karina. But hey, again, happy to watch Karina Rodriguez do her thing whenever. Yeah. As Bruce says, many thanks to Emily Dakota for doing what she did. Citra says, not worth it. Danielle Taylor circling all day, getting her legs chewed up. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I'm not so sure. Not so sure about it. But yeah, obviously never too exciting with Danielle Taylor's style. But that's why it's with Liz Tracy in there. Might be the opposite, but Danielle Taylor can turn even the most exciting fighters into boring ones. Who remembers that dreadful Marina Moroz fight, unfortunately? Before Marina went to flyweight, that was something to behold. Very few strikes thrown in that one. So, yeah. Invicta 46. Looking forward to it. It's not a whole lot to preview or break down here because it got shaken up so much, but always a good time. Always a good time. And again, it's just like maybe Karina versus Torquato could look different if there was more time between it, but I just don't know why it would look any different than happening 6 months ago or whatever, and on short notice. I just expect the same outcome. As James asks, why can't fighters from a different promotion like Bellator go and fight for a different promotion like Invicta? If the current promotion is this a two-parter, is there more coming to this, James? Because you feel like you're leaving me hanging there. Why can't fighters from a different promotion like Bellator go and fight for a different promotion like Invicta? And then you leave me with the if. So I don't know if there's more to this, but why can't they? I mean, they can. They got to work together, obviously, a little bit. We've seen Invicta fighters and Bellator fighters go from promotion to promotion. Ryzen also done that. It just really doesn't happen with the UFC. Even the PFL has worked with Invicta. So I don't know if there's more to that, again, like I said, because you leave me with the if the current promotion, if the current promotion can't get fights for the fighter. Because if they're primarily like for that promotion and they want them to be considered their person, and depending on how exclusive they are, they don't want them to go and lose, and then it makes them look bad is what they worry about, that kind of thing, So that's why we don't see that super duper often. Very rare situations. And as Chuck says, like I said, depends on contracts. Some fighters are exclusive. Yeah. I mean, more often than not, that is generally the case. And especially with the UFC, that's obviously how that works. So as Eunice says, wonderful show. Thank you so much. That means a lot. Thank you for hanging in. As Craig is here, he says, hi. Missed most of the show. We'll have to watch later. Always good stuff. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you tuning in. Good to see you. So yeah, just kind of a monopoly in that sense, I suppose. And Kimball with the compliments as well. Thank you so much, says Drake. Your chat is so knowledgeable, and so are you. Oh, you're too kind. You are far too kind. Thank you for tuning in again, Kimball. Appreciate it greatly. As we move on to the Bellator 276 preview, which just a single fight here. And again, this is one of those fights where we know how Bellator operates, but it is Diana Avsaragova taking on Ashley Dean. Prelim fight. Diana Avsaragova is ranked number 9, I believe, at flyweight, despite still being 4-0. And I love me some Diana Avsaragova. I think she has plenty of potential, showing off some very well-rounded abilities. Obviously, kind of has that grappling, wrestling sambo a little bit in the back pocket, but showed off her striking in the last fight and didn't really impress a lot of people. But I mean, it was impressive in the sense that it showed that she can do more than just one thing. And I mean, she's shown to be pretty versatile in her career to this point anyways, and got that knockout over Terry Graf in her debut, which was ridiculous. Yeah, got submission in her debut. She should not. I don't know how a judge thought that Golfin won that fight, because she was pretty in control there. Either way, taking on Ashley Dean, who is 5-6. Like I said, it's very annoying when you see that fighters who are still this young kind of in Bellator will get ranked at all. And then they're still kind of being put against fighters who are not helping pad, which I don't necessarily think that's what I want to say in this case, because decent amount of experience for Ashley Dean, and she's kind of only lost to the people she should lose to, which, as you can see, Jasmine Jasdavicius, who is in the UFC now, just BK Hansen. Julia Avila, I mean, of course, you're going to get ran over by her. Raging Panda, Sarah Howell. And I think there were some other notable names on her record as well that she lost to. But Diana Absaragova, just so far from what we've seen, can do everything pretty well. And we know that she is, I guess, best at grappling considering her background. But I like what I've seen from her on the feet. I mean, it's nothing crazy yet, not super polished. It's kind of what she was doing, was polishing it in that last fight with Golfin. Has knockout power, as we saw against Terry Graf. I mean, that was absolutely beautiful. About as perfect as a win as you could ask for. And yeah, it's another one of those fights where it's her fight to lose. And that's about what many of these fights can be for certain Bellator fighters, unfortunately. But hey, I mean, it's not the worst thing. They gotta learn somehow. It's just annoying when they get ranked a little bit early, right? That's the thing. That is the thing. So, as Xiao asks, Drake, do you have any recommendations on YouTube for who to watch for great analysis for MMA, mainly for the women? Jimmy answering for you says that's easy, Xiao. All of them are bad except for this one. And pretty much that is what everyone else is saying. Appreciate you guys so much being so kind today, which really means a lot. I need this positivity right now. Been a little bit of a rough weekend for me, as I said, but yeah, I mean, hey, I'll leave that to them, Zhao. They got the answers for you, I guess, and I'm not one to pick anyway or judge. So appreciate all you guys so much, truly do. So yeah. Got you covered. They got you covered. They know better than I do anyways, since I honestly don't have too much time to get around to those kind of things. And mostly what I do see is pretty toxic, and I strongly dislike it from what I have seen when I have. So and thank you so much, Craig. I try my best, man, to be as positive as I can be and as fair down the line as I can. Of course, practically impossible to remove bias completely, I think, if you're a human, which I am. So do my best in all regards. So, and Alvin says I'm his favorite. You're too kind, my man. As we get to the UFC Vegas 50 preview, the last one of the day. My goodness, already here. Oh, even Ghost chiming in. Appreciate you guys. Really, really do. As we get to the flyweight division, which this show has kind of entirely been a flyweight showcase. You know how it does that sometimes. Just 1 week will be all about a certain division. This one kind of about flyweights as we go to a replacement fight a bit. Sabina Mazo takes on Miranda Maverick. And actually, we talked about both of these fights briefly last week when they were made, as Miranda Maverick is coming in on short notice, filling in for, I don't remember who she's filling in for, even though we did just talk about it last week. It's going to kill me to not know, but oh well, doesn't really matter. This is the fight we're getting. Sabina Mazo, Miranda Maverick. Not a must win for both of them, but they could both use a win. Obviously, both riding 2 fight losing streaks, even though we know Miranda Maverick beat Macy Barber. If you want to talk about robberies from earlier, that was one of them. And the odds makers like the replacement in Fear the Maverick coming in at a -270. Pretty decent size there. And I don't think I disagree with it, really. As much promise as Sabina Mazo has shown in glimmers at times, it's still, this is just a tough matchup, I think. Sabina Mazo, in that last loss to Maria Agapova really started off quicker, which that has always been her problem. Is she's been a slow starter and gotten behind a little bit and then come on better late in the rounds. And I mean, she was on her way to losing against Justine Kish, like no doubt about it. And then hit her with the head kick and followed her to the ground, submitted her. Impressive stuff there. She does very good as the fight goes on, but typically has not been the case when you start out. But in the last fight, she started off pretty strong with Agapova, but just ran into counters and maybe a little bit too fast. I don't know about that, but it was definitely a much more aggressive approach than we typically see from Sabina Mazo. If she does that against Miranda Maverick, I think she's going to run into takedowns and probably a similar thing. So I don't know. It might be better for her to take her time again in a fight like this, but with Miranda Maverick, she's going to be at very clear length disadvantages, as most people will be against Sabina Mazo. I mean, 5'7", 70-inch reach to just a 5'3", 65.5 for Maverick. So if you really utilize that distance, utilize her kicks, keep Maverick at bay, I think that's where her best chance is. So in that regard, she should take her time a little bit more. Don't get too crazy. Don't run into counter shots or takedowns, which I think is ultimately what is going to happen. Is Maverick will end up getting the fight to the ground and then, do her thing from there. In a Maverick with her back against the wall, yes, they both have their back against the wall. And yes, Maverick got completely outclassed on the ground against Aaron Blanchfield, but that's just because that's how good Aaron Blanchfield is. Maverick can still take you down and do the same thing to other people, just not Aaron Blanchfield. And I definitely, if you're going to do the math here, it can happen to Sabina Mazo as well. And I think it probably will, which seems most people would agree because of those odds. Mazo just needs to work from the distance, which might not make for the most exciting fight, but it's doable. It's doable. She's got the length to do it. So, yes. Rain says, yeah, I think Drake is the best. He's knowledgeable and very positive, even though the chat is not most of the time. Well, hey, we have that balance, I guess. So, yes. Centro says, hopefully Mazo wins. She's a Phantom Punch recipient. That is true. As James agrees. And Jimmy asks, what did I think of... Oh, that cut off for me. What did I think of Alan saying that Josiane Nunes was more technical than Ramona? Well, I mean, that's clearly not true. That clearly was not true. But it didn't need to be true because it worked, right? So that's the thing. If we're going to go back to last week about that whole situation where a technical fighter loses to a less technical fighter, which was what happened there with Ramona and Josiane, it worked. It worked. So you can't say it was wrong. You can't say it was bad. Maybe fundamentally and all that kind of thing. Yeah, it was bad, but it worked. She won because of it. So what more do you expect? What do you want? The name of the game is to win by any means necessary. Might not have been pretty, but this is combat sports. So, I mean, clearly not the most technical performance, but you don't always have to be, which is what makes the sport so great, right? Is that there are many, many different ways to win. You don't always have to be the prettiest. Don't always have to be, whatever. It worked is what it ultimately comes down to. And Rain asking about Yusuf. I mean, hey, Yusuf, I at least always found pretty entertaining. I miss Yusuf. If you're out there, Yusuf, please come back. Please don't feel bullied. I hope that you don't feel bullied. I think that I hope everyone is with good intentions, but yeah, Yusuf provided the good old laughs. We almost did the stamp because of him. I never got around to that. So that was fun. Bago says it wasn't wrong, just sad. So see, that's kind of what I was getting at. That a fighter with no smarts wins, but she got it done, and it happens. Yes. Plus, if you are tough and a superior athlete, you can win. Yeah, I mean that's what makes the sport so goddamn intriguing. Is that there are just so many different ways to win, and it doesn't always have to be the cleanest per se, right? So, yeah. But Sabina Mazo, Miranda Maverick. If you couldn't tell, Miranda Maverick is who I'm leaning towards. But also at flyweight, another replacement fight, JJ Aldrich versus Jillian Robertson. Jillian Robertson filling in for Ariane Lipski. I do remember that. That is who I remember. I don't remember who it was that went out for the Maverick one. But in this fight here, JJ Aldrich, the more well-rounded fighter. We know what we're getting with Jillian Robertson at this point, which is a very good submission grappler when on top. When on top. I guess depending on who she's going against, on the bottom, could be fair to say she's fine there too. But I mean, if we Tyla Santos and Miranda, really, I mean, both of those recent losses really exposed her in that she can only work from the top, and she's very dangerous from there. But otherwise, striking is not great. Takedowns, all right. And this is very fascinating to me to see that the odds makers are giving Robertson the favorite here on short notice. I don't quite agree with that. I think this should be flip-flopped. I mean, JJ can wrestle herself, a very tough fighter. I think her boxing and just overall striking is definitely much sharper than Jillian's. Maybe not definitely, but it certainly is. And if JJ takes her down, again, I think she's a good enough wrestler to be able to survive just fine, because as we've seen, Jillian's got to be on top to be most effective. Could she get there? For sure. JJ Aldrich is a former strawweight, but she's really coming to her size, I think, at flyweight. And I don't know. I thought her boxing looked pretty solid in these last two wins. And yes, I know some people thought she lost to Courtney Casey, but JJ Aldrich always wanted to make it pretty ugly, grindy against the cage if she has to, which we could very well end up seeing here. Get the takedown. Just more ways to succeed. I don't want to say more ways to win here for JJ, because if someone's getting finished, it would be her. It would be from a Robertson submission. But in terms of paths to victory, I think JJ just clearly, we know who's the not one trick pony necessarily. I don't want to say that, but the tactician, I suppose, when it comes to their area of expertise, and then who, can do more things, if that makes sense. So, Chuck says, up to a certain point, athletic ability is sometimes enough, as we're talking about the other fight again. As Jimmy says, he needs to feel bullied for saying that Whaley didn't understand how to handle distance when she was hitting Rose in the face. I mean, yeah, that was definitely interesting. I don't agree with the bullying necessarily. I mean, you can educate somebody nicely, Jimmy, but I mean, that's just he admitted to being a newer fan. I don't know. As Makoto says, what was JJ Aldrich's last fight? I cannot remember. It was the fight against Vanessa Demopoulos, which was also short notice. So she's getting two short notice opponents, obviously two different instances here. Vanessa Demopoulos, a strawweight who came in on short notice. Yeah, I remember she just kind of slammed Demopoulos all over the place. Took her down pretty much at will, as that fight was expected to go. I don't think this will go that way necessarily, but I would be stunned if JD doesn't try to mix this up as best as she can. So, yeah. Interesting that the odds would go like this, but maybe not. Jillian Robertson, obviously a bit more popular and formerly ranked in the top 15. I don't think she is anymore, but survived the eye gouging against Priscilla Cachoeira in her last time out. Surprise, surprise. Jillian Robertson submitted Priscilla Cachoeira. You don't say. Can't believe that happened. So yeah. Jimmy asks, will you ever ask Demopoulos what it was like training with Weili? Yes, I certainly will. So I told you guys I did want to speak to Vanessa after that fight, and just kind of time got away from me. A little bit late now. I will try and catch up with her before her next fight, whoever that is against and whenever that is. But yes, I certainly will ask Vanessa Demopoulos about that, as a lot of people clearly don't know about it. I'm surprised no one did ask. So that means that they don't know, because she did plenty of interviews. As James asks, what did you think of Weili liking all Colby's posts with the strippers? I did not see that or know she did that, but that's funny. I think she probably dislikes Colby because, you know, they met each other at UFC 268. So I think that's probably what that's about. She probably just thinks he's funny, which it kind of is, in a very ridiculous way. Not a typical funny way, but yeah. I think that would be my guess right there. So, all right, you guys, that is UFC Vegas 50. I am starving. Got to eat before I get to the rest of the work today at MMAmania.com. As you can see down below, visit for all your MMA needs. And don't forget to follow, like, share, and subscribe on all platforms. And hit that notification bell here on YouTube so you don't miss a thing. At @DrakeRiggs_, at MMAmania on whatever. We're everywhere. And yeah. Thanks so much for tuning in, you guys. Got to get the shameless plugs out of the way, as at 2:30, so about roughly an hour from now, we'll be dropping my chat with Amanda Lemos, who takes on Jessica Andrade at UFC Vegas 52. They're the main event. Don't miss that. It was very fun getting to speak with Amanda for the first time. Plenty of good stuff from her. Very confident lady, very dangerous lady. Cannot wait for that fight with Jessica Andrade. Also spoke to Phil Davis and Julius Ingliskas this past week, and they're taking on each other at Bellator 276 on Saturday. So it was fun getting to chat with both of them. Both great dudes, light heavyweights, gonna go at it. Karina Rodriguez, of course. I think I plugged that one last week, but that's out now too here on the channel. Check it out before she faces Diana Torquato now. So we spoke about the Ketlen Sosa fight, but obviously that is not happening anymore. But you can still check it out because Karina is great. And whatever else is here on the channel and on MMAmania.com. You know where it is. Go check it out. Appreciate it oh so greatly. You guys are the best. As Jin says, is it going to be awkward for you when you said that Vanessa is not UFC caliber? No, it's not, because I doubt that she will have seen that. But if she has and brings it up, then it'll be a funny moment to laugh about, unless she's angered about it. But hey, I said what I said. I said what I said. Yeah, Jin, exactly. It is what it is. I'm not going to go back on it. That's how I felt. So yeah. Oh, Rain, appreciate you. Love you, sir. Oh, James, Drake is the best writer ever. I try, my man. You guys really uplifting me today. Appreciate it so much. And a special thank you again to Mary for those comments at the beginning. I really did not expect that, and kind of needed that today. So good way to start the day. Good way to start the week. Ghost, you're too kind. I appreciate all of you guys. Big turnaround from last week, so I'm proud of you. That really left me on a sour note. So I didn't want to talk about it really, and that's not the reason I've been in a bad mood. But thank you. Thank you all so much. And let's enjoy the week. Enjoy the week of fights. Invicta on Wednesday. Bellator, they're both on Saturday. And whatnot. All the rest that's to come. Stay positive in a crazy world, right? A lot going on out there. Thank you guys so much. It means a lot. And let me play the music as I roll us out. I should do this earlier, right? Hit it as I'm doing. I forget that it's there. It's a nice little option. But either way, until next time, you guys, at @DrakeRiggs_, at MMA Mania, wherever your MMA needs are. Thank you, Kimball. So thank you to everybody who was new as well. A lot of new faces here today, so appreciate it. But all right, until next week, see you then. Enjoy the weekend. Stay safe and stay sane, my friends.